Queen Camilla has been quietly running a campaign behind palace doors for months. A personal campaign, one that had nothing to do with serving the crown and everything to do with securing a piece of it for her own son. And when Prince William found out exactly what she was trying to pull, he did not just say no. He dismantled the entire plan so completely, so decisively that by the time it was over, Camilla had no choice but to walk away from the table entirely. But here is what makes this story so much bigger than just a family disagreement. It is what William did next. Because he did not just block Camilla's proposal and leave a gap, he filled it. And the way he filled it sent a message that is still echoing through the halls of Buckingham Palace right now. Stay with me.
Some voices are born to rule. Power is not given. This is the royal voice, where the crown speaks.
Welcome to the Royal Voice, where we go beyond the headlines and tell you what is really happening behind those palace walls. So let us get into it. Let us start with what Camilla was actually trying to do. Because when you understand the full picture, it is honestly more audacious than most people realize. This was not a mother casually mentioning at dinner that her son might enjoy doing some charity work. This was a coordinated months-long push to get Tom Parker Bowles, her son from her first marriage, officially installed as a royal patron. And if you do not know what a royal patron actually is, that is exactly where we need to begin because this whole story depends on it. Tom Parker Bowles is 50 years old. Born in 1974, he has spent his entire adult life building a career as a food writer, a critic, an author. He is charming, he is media savvy, he moves comfortably in influential circles. And from Camilla's perspective, he was the perfect answer to a very real problem the monarchy is staring down right now. Because the working royal roster, the actual group of people available to show up, cut ribbons, represent the crown at events, take on patronages, has shrunk to an almost dangerous level. Harry is in California, completely gone. Andrew has been permanently removed from public life because of his scandals. And King Charles, who is 76 years old and fighting cancer, has a schedule that his medical team is tightly controlling. The number of working royals available to carry the load has dropped to a handful, and the handful that remain are absolutely exhausted. Camilla saw that situation and she saw an opening. She began building a case behind closed doors. The argument she was making was essentially this: the monarchy is short-staffed, the remaining working royals are being stretched to breaking point, and refusing to be flexible about who can step in is not tradition, it is recklessness. She framed Tom as a ready-made solution, energetic, experienced in public life, already connected to charitable causes privately, and someone who could absorb some of the workload and give Charles the breathing room he desperately needs to recover. She packaged it as modernization, a blended family stepping up for a blended era. And here's the thing. If you look at it purely on the surface, you could almost see the logic. The monarchy needs bodies. Here is a capable person already in the orbit. Why not use him? But William and Anne did not look at this as a staffing problem. They looked at it as a constitutional problem. And that distinction is everything. Because what Camilla was actually asking for was not just a job for her son. She was asking the monarchy to quietly blur one of the most fundamental lines that holds the entire institution together. A royal patron is not a celebrity endorsement. It is not an honorary badge you hand out to someone nice. When a member of the royal family becomes the official patron of a charity, a hospital foundation, a military regiment, a cultural institution, they are deploying the full weight and prestige of the crown to validate that organization. The public sees a royal patron and understands instinctively that this person has given their private life to the service of the state, that they are constitutionally bound to the House of Windsor, that the endorsement carries real institutional weight, not just a famous name. And that is why Tom Parker Bowles cannot hold that role. Not because he is a bad person, not because of personal animosity, but because he is a private citizen. He is the son of the Queen Consort from a previous marriage. He has taken no constitutional oath. He holds no position within the line of succession. He is not a bloodline member of the House of Windsor. And the moment you hand him a royal patronage, you are telling the public and the world that the crown's official representation is no longer exclusively tied to those who have sworn lifelong service to the state. You are saying that who you are married to is enough to give your children access to the machinery of the monarchy, and once you say that, you cannot unsay it. William and Anne understood the precedent this would set with absolute clarity. If the son of a queen consort can quietly step into an official role today, what stops the relatives of future consorts from demanding the same tomorrow? What stops it from becoming expected? The answer is nothing. The door opens and it does not close again. So when this proposal reached the point where it needed formal sign-off, William and Anne refused, flatly. Completely. But they did not stop there. This is where it gets really interesting. Instead of just saying no and moving on, they turned the entire process into an examination. They demanded a full audit of how this proposal had even made it this far. They asked whether the normal vetting procedures had actually been followed, the months of background checks, the constitutional review, the formal consensus required from senior advisors and royal councils. They asked whether the proper channels had been bypassed, whether the proposal had been fast-tracked under the cover of the staffing crisis. And the answers to those questions were deeply uncomfortable for Camilla's camp, because the truth that came out was this. The proposal had not gone through the full rigorous process that a decision of this magnitude required. The safeguards that exist specifically to prevent nepotism and personal favoritism from creeping into official appointments had not been fully deployed, and the moment that became clear, Camilla's team lost all of their procedural ground. You cannot argue for a modern, flexible monarchy while simultaneously bypassing the rules that modern governance demands. The palace split hard. On one side, Camilla's supporters argued that this was simply recognizing Tom's genuine charitable work in his private life, that a modern monarchy needs to be agile, that the public would accept his presence if it meant vital charities could continue running without interruption. On the other side, William and Anne, backed by senior civil servants and traditionalist courtiers, held firm. The Crown's patronages carry constitutional significance that goes far beyond individual achievement or temporary convenience. The British monarchy has survived for centuries precisely because it maintains hard, unyielding boundaries between private family life and official state authority. And those boundaries were not going to bend for Camilla's son. Princess Anne's role in all of this cannot be overstated. She is not just William's ally in this fight. She is the single most credible defender of royal protocol alive today. 50 years of relentless, disciplined service. More engagements annually than almost any other working royal. A woman who views the established rules not as bureaucratic inconveniences but as the very foundation on which the monarchy's legitimacy stands. When Anne put her institutional weight behind the opposition to this proposal, the conversation shifted from a quiet internal disagreement to a full-scale battle over the future direction of the institution. Her voice carries a moral authority that simply cannot be dismissed. She made it clear, the rules exist precisely so that personal influence can never overshadow the permanent responsibilities of the state. And then William made the move that changed absolutely everything, because here is what most people miss about how William operates. He does not just block things, he replaces them. He looked at Camilla's core argument, that there was a genuine staffing crisis, that William and Anne could not keep up alone, that the monarchy needed new people to fill the gaps, and he answered it directly, not by dismissing the problem, by solving it, in a way that left Camilla with nothing left to say. William proposed bringing in Peter Phillips, the eldest grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, the son of Princess Anne, a bloodline member of the House of Windsor who has spent over 20 years building a genuinely impressive career completely outside the royal apparatus, working at Jaguar, at Williams Formula One as managing director of a major sports entertainment company. Peter Phillips is someone who understands business, corporate governance, large-scale event management, and modern charity operations. He is self-made in every meaningful sense. He has never held a formal royal title, raised by Anne to be completely self-reliant, and yet he has consistently been a dignified, trusted representative of the family name. And he is one of Prince William's closest and most trusted friends. But the real masterstroke was who William included alongside Peter, his new wife, Harriet Sperling. Harriet is a pediatric nurse, a working, frontline, highly experienced pediatric nurse, and you have to understand why that matters so specifically right now. For years, one of the central pillars of Catherine's public work has been her focus on early childhood development and pediatric mental health through the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood. Catherine is still managing her own health recovery alongside her constitutional duties. The palace was facing a real gap in exactly that area of work. And here comes Harriet Sperling, a woman with genuine clinical expertise in children's health, stepping forward voluntarily at no cost to the public to help sustain that work. Think about what William just did. Camilla said there was a crisis. Camilla said William and Anne needed help. Camilla said her son was the solution. And William responded by producing two people, bloodline legitimate, properly vetted, bringing real professional skills, costing the taxpayer absolutely nothing, who could fill the exact gaps Camilla had been pointing to. The manpower crisis that was supposed to make Tom Parker Bowles necessary, gone, solved, without bending a single constitutional rule. What William and Anne created is being called the Associate Royals model. Peter and Harriet do not receive a single penny from the public purse. They do not take on aristocratic titles that could trigger political controversy. They operate as specialized ambassadors, volunteering their professional expertise to specific high-priority campaigns. Every public appearance they make, every statement they give, every charitable interaction they undertake is vetted and approved by William's personal press office in advance. When Peter is operating in his corporate capacity, he is barred from using any royal branding whatsoever. When the couple performs charitable duties, they do so strictly as volunteering family members. The boundary between public service and private enterprise is absolute and non-negotiable. And this is where the situation becomes genuinely uncomfortable for Camilla, because she had been arguing for months behind closed doors in private meetings through her supporters in the palace that the working royals were under unsustainable strain, that William and Anne could not keep the pace alone, that the monarchy was facing a crisis of capacity that could only be solved by expanding who was allowed to step in. And William's response to all of that was essentially, here are two people from within the bloodline properly positioned, ready to serve, at no cost to anyone. What exactly is the problem now? The answer, of course, was that there was no problem anymore, except that Camilla's son was no longer needed, and that was the only problem that had ever really mattered to her. King Charles was reportedly very satisfied with how this resolved, and you can understand why. He has spent his entire reign trying to balance the complicated dynamics of a blended family against the rigid demands of his historical office. William and Anne's counter-strategy gave him the perfect exit. He did not have to personally reject his wife's proposal. The system worked the way it is designed to work. The normal safeguards did their job. Camilla's team could not overcome them, and Charles could stand back, approve William's arrangement, and frame everything as a natural evolution of the family's voluntary support network. Faced with a unified front from William and Anne, backed by senior civil servants and traditional courtiers, and confronted by a flawless, bloodline-backed alternative that completely neutralized her argument, Camilla withdrew the proposal. Quietly. Finally, the bid to give her son an official piece of the royal apparatus was cancelled, and realizing that any further attempt to push it through would trigger a formal public constitutional debate within the royal councils, the kind of scrutiny nobody in her position wants, she walked away from the negotiations entirely. So what does this actually tell us about where the monarchy is right now? Because I think the real story here is not just that Camilla lost, it is what it reveals about the two people who stopped her. Princess Anne, with 50 years of service and a reputation so unimpeachable that even the most senior courtiers cannot argue with her. And Prince William, who has been watching the social circle around Camilla quietly expand its footprint within royal spaces for years, and who has been crystal clear, privately and publicly, that while Camilla holds the title of Queen Consort and deserves the respect that office commands, her children and relatives from her previous life are private citizens. Full stop. They can attend family celebrations, they are welcome at Christmas, but they are entirely separate from the machinery of the state. The moment those boundaries soften, even slightly, the credibility of the entire institution begins to crack, because the monarchy's legitimacy rests on one thing above everything else: the public's belief that the people carrying the crown have earned the right to carry it, that they were born into it or sworn into it or both. The second the public starts to feel like royal status is being handed out based on who you happen to be married to, the whole thing starts to feel like something else entirely, something smaller, something less worth respecting. What this entire situation has made undeniably clear is that William is not waiting to become king to start protecting the institution. He is doing it right now. Every move he has made in this situation, demanding the audit, deploying Peter and Harriet, building the associate royals model, refusing to leave a gap that Camilla's son could fill. Every single move has been about one thing: drawing a line so hard and so clearly that nobody inside or outside the palace can mistake where it is. The official royal family is the bloodline. Everyone else, no matter how close they are to the throne through marriage, is something different, something separate, and that line is not moving. And honestly, the most devastating part of all of this for Camilla is how airtight it is. She cannot claim it was unfair. She cannot point to anything that was done improperly. William followed every rule. He used the system exactly as it is designed to be used. He simply used it better than she did. He produced a better answer to the problem she raised, using people she cannot argue against under a framework she cannot legally challenge. She walked in with a plan to expand her family's access to the crown. She walked out having watched that access get locked down more firmly than it was before she started. Camilla argued there was a crisis. William and Anne solved it without her son. The crisis disappeared. The work continues. The boundaries held. And the keys to this institution remain exactly where they have always belonged, in the hands of those who bear the weight of the crown by right, not those who simply married into proximity to it. That is all for today here at the Royal Voice. If this is your first time with us, make sure you subscribe, because we are always going to tell you what is really happening behind those palace walls. And I will see you in the next one.